There are moments in life when a date, a simple mark on the calendar, begins to breathe. You look at it once and feel nothing. You pass it twice and sense a shadow, but then something changes. It begins to follow you. It whispers in your sleep. It lingers in the corners of your waking thoughts. That is what happened to me with August 15, 2025. It did not arrive with the noise of thunder. It came in silence, yet its presence was louder than any storm I have ever known. And one night, in the stillness when the world slept, I saw what was coming. I did not imagine it. I did not invent it. I was shown, and what I saw will not leave you untouched. This is not about fear. It is about preparation. For when this day arrives, it will not knock, it will enter. The date that breathes. There are dates that slip past you without notice. You glance at them, and they are nothing more than numbers stitched into the fabric of a month. But every once in a while, a date begins to live. It starts as a quiet presence, an ordinary square on a calendar, yet something inside you stirs when you see it. You cannot explain why. At first, you brush it off as nothing. Just another day, just another sunrise waiting to happen. But the feeling doesn't leave. Instead, it grows until that date no longer feels like paper and ink. It feels like a pulse. You don't choose it. It chooses you, and that is exactly what happened to me with August 15, 2025. The first time I saw it, it meant nothing. I was flipping through the days ahead, making notes, marking commitments. But the second time, my eyes stopped on it for no reason at all. It was as if the rest of the page blurred, and only that date remained sharp. It felt deliberate, and that feeling, the kind that crawls under your skin without your permission, was the beginning. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? What would I say? This date feels alive. They would have laughed, perhaps even worried for me. So I stayed silent. Days passed, yet the date followed me. I would see it in odd places, the total of a bill, the digits of a phone number, the timestamp of a message. August 15 kept finding me, and each time I felt the same weight. It was not a weight of dread, but of significance, as if the day itself was carrying something and wanted me to know. It was then I began to ask myself, could a day have a destiny? Could a single point in time carry the force to alter lives? You see, we often think of time as a flowing river, continuous and steady, with each day no different from the next. But that's not true. There are days when the river changes course, days when the current surges without warning. History remembers such days. You don't need to look far. Just recall the mornings when the world woke up and discovered everything had shifted, not by choice, not by design, but by an unseen hand that had already set the motion long before anyone noticed. And maybe that's why this date breathes. Maybe August 15, 2025 is one of those days. A day already written in the hidden script of time. Not a day of random events, but a day of convergence, where things collide. Plans, choices, consequences, until the air itself feels different. I could not ignore it anymore, so I started paying attention. I began keeping a journal, writing down every small moment connected to that date. The dreams I had, the conversations that seemed to hint at something, the patterns that kept reappearing, and in doing so I noticed a strange truth. The more I acknowledged it, the more the date seemed to acknowledge me back. It was as if August 15 was leaning closer, waiting for me to listen. One evening, I was sitting alone by the window. The city outside was quiet, lights flickering in the distance, the hum of life faint but steady. I closed my eyes and asked, silently, what was so special about this day. And in that moment, I didn't hear words, but I felt an answer. It wasn't about a single event. It was about a shift, a change in the unseen balance, the kind of shift that doesn't just touch one life, but many, perhaps entire nations. I am not here to predict disasters or weave fear into your heart. No, this is not about fear. It is about awareness, because awareness is the first step to preparation. If a wave is coming, you can drown in it. Or you can ride it, and I believe August 15 will be a wave. What kind of wave I cannot yet tell you, but I know it will move through our lives with purpose. It is easy to dismiss such feelings, to call them coincidences or tricks of the mind. But I have learned something. The greatest warnings often come quietly. The most powerful changes rarely announce themselves in advance. Instead, they arrive like a shadow moving across the ground, silent, inevitable, and impossible to stop once it has begun. And sometimes, if you are very still, you can feel them coming. Perhaps you have felt it too, though you did not know its name, a restlessness, a subtle pull towards something you can't yet see. Maybe you have been waking in the night without reason, or finding your thoughts drifting toward questions you've never asked before. If so, then you already know what I mean when I say the date breathes. It is alive in the space between moments, in the unspoken tension that hums beneath the surface of your ordinary days. In history, some dates become scars, others become beacons. The same day can be both, wounding some, guiding others. It all depends on which side of the wave you stand on when it arrives, and that is why I am speaking now, because if August 15, 2025, is approaching with the weight I believe it carries, then the question is not whether you can stop it. You cannot. The question is, will you be ready for it? When I think about that day, I don't see chaos. I see clarity. I see the moment when what is hidden becomes visible, when the threads behind the curtain are finally pulled into the light. It might be something that challenges your beliefs, something that forces you to rethink what you thought was unshakable. Or perhaps it will be the day that confirms everything you've quietly suspected. Either way, it will not pass without leaving a mark. And so I wait, not with fear, but with a steady heart. I prepare in silence, aligning my mind, my spirit, my choices. Because when a date breathes, it is a call to attention. And when it finally exhales, it will not be for nothing. August 15, 2025 is not just a day. It is a turning point, and turning points, they do not arrive by accident. They arrive because the time for them has come. So remember this. Some days are given to you to pass through without thought, but some days are given to you so that you will never be the same after them. August 15 is such a day, and when it arrives, it will be too late to wonder what it means. The only choice you have is to decide who you will be when it comes. The vision in the quiet hours, it is in the quiet hours that truth speaks, not in the rush of the day, when the world is loud and every moment demands your attention, but in that fragile space when time itself seems to pause. The world sleeps, the noise falls away, and the only sound is the soft hum of your own breath. That is when the unseen speaks. If you are willing to listen, it was in such an hour that I was shown something about August 15, 2025. I was not searching for it. I was not asking for answers, and yet they came to me uninvited, yet impossible to turn away from. It was late, too late to be awake for any practical reason. The air in the room was still, heavy with the kind of silence that makes every small movement sound like a confession. The city outside had gone to sleep. The streets below were empty, their usual heartbeat gone still. I sat alone by the window, not thinking of anything in particular, and then something shifted. I cannot describe it in ordinary words, because it was not an ordinary experience. It was not a sound, not an image, not even a voice. It was a presence, a weight, not on my shoulders but in the air itself, as though reality had bent slightly, making room for something greater to step in. I closed my eyes. The darkness behind my eyelids was not empty, it was alive. I saw, not a scene, but a feeling taking shape, a horizon, distant yet advancing, filled with a strange light, not golden, not silver, but a deep, living light that carried both comfort and warning. And within it I sensed the day, August 15. It was not written in numbers or letters, yet I knew it. It pulsed through the vision like a heartbeat. Visions are not like dreams. Dreams are fragile. They scatter when you wake. But a true vision anchors itself in your soul. It does not fade, it follows you, and this vision, it was not about showing me everything. No, it was about showing me enough to know that something was approaching. Enough to know that it was no accident. Enough to know that it demanded preparation. In the stillness, I felt layers of meaning unfolding. I saw people, faces I recognized, and some I did not, standing on the edge of a change they could not see. Some looked ready, others looked lost, and the strange thing was, they were all standing in the same light, yet their expressions were different. For some, the light was a dawn. For others, it was a fire. I realized then, the day itself would not choose what it meant to them. They would choose that, by how they had lived before it came. I remember my hands resting in my lap, perfectly still, yet my heart felt as though it was moving through centuries in a single moment. Time seemed to stretch. I could see that August 15 was not a random point in the year. It was a meeting place, the kind of moment when threads from the past, the present, and the unseen future all converge. I understood then why the date had been following me. It was not trying to frighten me. It was trying to wake me. The vision deepened. I saw a door. It stood alone, without walls, without a building, suspended in a space that was neither here nor there. The door was closed, but the light leaked through its edges, and I knew that behind it lay the fullness of what August 15 would hold. I reached for the handle, not with my physical hand, but with something deeper. And the moment I touched it, I felt a current run through me, not pain, not pleasure, something beyond both. It was knowledge, not in words, but in understanding. It told me without speaking that this was not a day to be taken lightly. That to arrive at it unprepared was to stand in front of the door with nothing to offer. The vision did not show me what was behind the door. That part was withheld, and I understood why. Because some truths must be approached, not consumed. To see too much too soon is to lose the very preparation that makes you ready for them. What I was given was not the event itself. It was the invitation to be ready when the event came. When my eyes opened, the room looked the same. The walls had not moved. The clock still ticked softly. But I was not the same. I could feel the vision settling inside me, not like a memory, but like a seed. And I knew it would grow. For days afterward, I carried that vision quietly. I told no one, not because I feared their disbelief, but because some things are too sacred to be spoken too soon. I began to pay more attention to the rhythm of my life, to the choices I made without thinking, to the things I allowed into my mind and heart. I understood that the vision was not just about knowing, it was about becoming. August 15 was not a day I would simply witness. It was a day I was being prepared for, and that is the nature of visions. They are not given to entertain curiosity. They are given to shape character. They ask something of you. They call you to a higher alertness, to a deeper stillness, to an awareness that life is not random. Every step, every moment, every unseen connection is part of something vast. And sometimes that vastness chooses to show itself to you, not so you can boast that you've seen it, but so you can live differently because you have. Even now, when I return to that quiet hour in my memory, I feel the same pulse, the same steady presence reminding me the day is coming. It will not arrive early, it will not delay, and when it comes it will be exactly what it was meant to be. The only question that remains is whether we will be exactly who we were meant to be when it does. So if you ever find yourself awake when the rest of the world sleeps, do not rush to fill the silence. Sit with it, listen, because sometimes, in that stillness, something greater will step in. And if you are willing to be still long enough, you may just be shown what you were never meant to miss. That is how I was given the vision. That is how I was told to watch for August 15, 2025. And that is why I am speaking now, because the quiet hours have spoken to me, and they have asked me to tell you, be ready. The unseen hand, there is a strange truth about life. Most of what shapes us is invisible. We walk through our days believing we are steering the course, that our choices alone carve the road ahead. And yes, we choose, but there is also something else at work, something older, quieter, and infinitely more precise. Call it fate, call it providence, call it the will of God. I call it the unseen hand. It is the hand that moves without being seen, the force that arranges moments so flawlessly that we mistake them for coincidence. But they are not accidents. Nothing this exact is ever an accident. I began to notice this hand long before August 15, 2025 began following me, but I did not understand its full reach until the patterns became too deliberate to ignore. A friend calling at the exact moment I needed counsel. A chance encounter that led to an opportunity I had been quietly hoping for. Even the setbacks, yes, especially the setbacks, seemed too well timed, shaping me in ways I only understood years later. The unseen hand does not move with our permission. It moves with purpose, and yet it never announces itself. It hides in plain sight, arranging the smallest details like a master weaver, threading a tapestry we cannot see from where we stand. We look at our lives and see knots, loose threads and tangled colors. But from above, from where the unseen hand works, the picture is perfect. That is why we often don't recognize its movements until much later. We think we are wandering, when in truth we are being guided. When the vision of August 15 came to me, I began to trace its roots backward. Why this date? Why now? And the more I thought, the more I realized how many small, seemingly unrelated events had led me here. Conversations I barely remembered, decisions I made in passing, delays that once frustrated me. Every one of them had placed me exactly where I needed to be to notice the date when it began to breathe. That is the mark of the unseen hand. It aligns the past so perfectly that the present makes sense in a way it could not have without it. Some would call this superstition. Others would dismiss it as luck. But I have lived long enough to know that luck is just a word we use when we cannot see the hand that moved for us. And I have learned something else. The unseen hand is not always gentle. Sometimes it shakes us, breaks us, even wounds us. But its purpose is never destruction. It is transformation. What feels like loss from our view is often a shift from its view, moving us into position for what we could not reach on our own. In the weeks after the vision, I began to see signs of this hand everywhere. People crossing my path at just the right moment. Words spoken in casual conversation that felt like they were meant only for me. Even the quiet delays, the ones that force you to wait when you want to run, felt intentional, as if I was being kept still so that something could catch up to me. And that is when I understood. The unseen hand is not only about moving us forward, it is about holding us in place until the exact moment when all the threads meet. August 15, 2025 felt like one of those meeting points. Not a day that stood alone, but a day when countless hidden threads would come together. Imagine 1,000 rivers flowing in different directions, only to meet at a single point. That is what I saw. That is what I felt, and it filled me with both awe and caution, because when so many currents collide, the waters can be both powerful and dangerous. The unseen hand is precise, but it is not predictable. It does not work by our clocks or calendars. It works by alignment, aligning moments, aligning people, aligning events so that the right thing happens at the right time. And when it moves, it is unstoppable. I have seen people fight against it, clinging to plans that were never meant to be. I have been one of those people, but the harder you resist, the harder life becomes, until you finally let go and allow the hand to guide you. And when you do, the pieces fall into place with a speed and grace that feel almost unreal. There is a humility that comes with recognizing this. You begin to see that you are not the architect of everything in your life. You are a participant in something much larger, something that has been unfolding long before you took your first breath. And this recognition does not weaken you, it strengthens you, because once you see the unseen hand, you no longer fear the unknown. You know there is design in it. I believe August 15 is not just a date, it is a design. It has been set in motion for reasons we cannot yet see. And if the unseen hand has brought it into our awareness, it is because we are meant to be ready when it arrives. Readiness is not about predicting the event. It is about shaping ourselves so that when the event comes, we can stand in it without being swept away. I have often wondered how many times in my life I have walked past the work of the unseen hand without noticing it. How many times it has opened a door I never walked through. How many times it has closed a door I begged to enter, not knowing what waited on the other side. But now I pay attention, because if there is one thing I have learned, it is this: when the unseen hand moves, it is not random. And if you are aware, you can move with it instead of against it. In the days leading up to August 15, I have chosen to listen more closely, to slow my steps, to watch for the threads that are being drawn together. I do not know what will happen. I do not need to. What I know is that the unseen hand is already at work, and its movements are not small. They never are. They may feel small in the moment, but in time we see them for what they are: turning points, pivots, the quiet beginnings of something that will one day be impossible to ignore. And so I wait, not with idle hands, but with open eyes. I wait knowing that when August 15 comes, it will not arrive alone. It will come carrying the weight of every thread, every choice, every unseen movement that has led to it. And when it does, the unseen hand will still be there, guiding, aligning, and weaving us into whatever comes next. Because that is what it has always done. That is what it will always do. And the only question is whether we will recognize it when it moves for us, or only when we look back and realize it already has. The echo beyond the day. There is a mistake we often make when we think about important days. We treat them as if they are self-contained, as if they live and die within the same 24 hours. We imagine that when the sun sets, the day is done. But the truth is, some days never truly end. They carry themselves forward. They send ripples into the future, changing things in ways we may not notice until years later. And August 15, 2025, I believe it will be such a day that will not remain locked in the calendar, but will follow us into every choice, every step, every corner of life thereafter. When I think of this date, I don't see it as an isolated event. I see it as a stone dropped into a still pond. The first splash may draw our attention, but it is the ripples that matter, the way they move outward, touching every shore. This is the echo beyond the day. The echo is not loud, yet it is relentless. It doesn't need to shout, because its work is subtle. It shifts things in small increments, changing the shape of the shore without anyone realizing it. One morning, you wake up, and everything looks the same. But it isn't. Something has moved. Something has turned. The echo does not depend on whether the day is joyful or heavy. It depends on the weight the day carries. Some echoes bring hope. Others bring lessons that take time to understand. And I have learned that the greatest echoes are not the ones that make noise, but the ones that quietly alter the direction of our lives. That is why August 15, 2025 stays with me. I do not believe it will leave us untouched when the clock strikes midnight. I believe it will leave a mark that will keep speaking long after the day itself has passed. You see, life is not made of moments alone. It is made of what those moments set into motion. The battles we win or lose, the choices we make or avoid, the truths we accept or deny, they keep moving long after the moment itself. That is the nature of the echo. It doesn't need the moment to be present in order to continue its work. It travels, it lingers, it shapes the days that follow. In my vision, the date was never just a point. It was a beginning, and beginnings do not end in a single breath. they unfold. They weave themselves into the fabric of everything that comes next. Think of the great shifts in history. The day itself may be remembered, but what truly changed the world were the years that followed, when the echo of that day continued to influence decisions, paths, and destinies. That is how I see August 15. But here is the challenge. The echo will not work the same for everyone. For some, it will be an awakening, a call to rise higher, to step into something greater. For others, it may be a slow unraveling, a reminder of what they ignored when they had the chance to act. The difference lies in how we meet the day itself. If we meet it with preparation, with awareness, with open eyes, the echo will carry us forward. If we meet it unprepared, distracted, or closed off, the echo may still carry us, but not in the direction we would choose. I have come to see that preparation is not just about the day, it is about the days after. If you only prepare for the event, you will stand ready for one moment, but you may not be ready for what follows. The echo tests endurance. It is not about one great act of courage. It is about the continued courage to walk in the aftermath, to hold your ground when the initial urgency has faded, and all that's left is the steady hum of change. And so, I think about the choices we make now, before the day arrives. I think about the people we choose to keep near, the habits we choose to build, the thoughts we choose to feed. All of these will shape how the echo sounds in our lives. Because after August 15, the world will look at the same sun, the same sky, the same streets, but something beneath it will be different. That difference will ask for a response, and our response will decide what kind of echo we live with. The echo is not only about events, it is also about us. It reveals who we truly are because it removes the noise of the moment and leaves us alone with the result. The crowd will go home, the dust will settle, and you will be left with yourself. Will you like who you find in that silence? Will you be proud of the way you stood? Or will you wish you had listened sooner, prepared deeper, and moved faster? These are the questions the echo will ask. For me, the echo is not something to fear. It is something to respect. It reminds me that life does not end in climaxes. It continues in the aftermath, and the aftermath is where character is revealed. A single act can inspire the world, but it is the consistency after the act that sustains it. That is why I am paying attention to August 15, not only because of what may happen on that day, but because of what will continue to happen in its shadow. In my heart, I believe the echo beyond the day will not be a whisper. It will be a call to wake up, a call to live with intention, a call to finally act on the things we have been postponing for years. And perhaps for some, it will be the moment they realize they have been living on borrowed time and that the luxury of waiting has ended. When the day comes, many will focus on the immediate, the headlines, the conversations, the visible changes. But the wise will watch for the echo. They will understand that what matters most is not always seen first. It is what comes after, in the quiet, when the world believes the moment has passed. That is when the true meaning reveals itself. And so, I prepare, not only for August 15, but for August 16, 17, and every day that follows, because the echo will live there, and in that echo will be the truth about what the day meant, and what it was asking of us all along. The day will pass, the sun will rise again, life will go on, but somewhere in the air, in the choices, in the way we carry ourselves, the echo will still be moving, reshaping everything it touches. And years from now, when we look back, we may not remember all the details of that day, but we will feel the difference it made. That is why I say August 15, 2025 is not just a date. It is a beginning that will not end when the clock runs out. It will send a sound forward, one we cannot silence, one we cannot outrun. And when that sound reaches you, whether in joy, in challenge, or in revelation, how you answer will define far more than a single day. It will define the path you walk for years to come. The choice before the storm. Every storm carries a warning. It may be a faint shift in the wind, the sudden stillness of the air, the way the sky changes color as if it's holding its breath. Nature always gives us a moment before it begins, one last pause to decide what we will do before the first strike of lightning. Life is no different. Every great change, every turning point, offers a choice before it arrives. And I believe August 15, 2025, is giving us that moment now, the choice before the storm. The most dangerous thing we can do in this moment is pretend the sky is clear. It is tempting to tell ourselves that nothing will change, that the days ahead will be just like the days behind. But storms do not wait for our approval. They come when they are ready. And when they do, it is not the ones with the strongest walls who endure it, is the ones who prepared before the clouds gathered. When I think about the choice before us, I do not imagine a single decision, neatly wrapped in clarity. No, the choice is layered, complex, and deeply personal. It is about who we will be when the day arrives. Will we meet it with fear or with courage? Will we stand frozen, or will we move with purpose? Will we cling to what is crumbling, or will we step toward what is being built? These are the questions that will matter far more than the event itself. I have seen people wait until the storm is upon them to decide their course, and I have watched them crumble. Not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked readiness. Readiness is not something you can summon in a single moment. It is built in the quiet days before the noise begins. That is why the choice before the storm matters so much. You make it now in the stillness before the winds rise. You make it when no one is watching, when it would be easier to turn away and do nothing. And yet, the choice is not only about survival. It is about alignment. Every storm carries within it the power to destroy and the power to cleanse. What it leaves behind depends on what it finds when it comes. If it finds fear, it will scatter. If it finds faith, it will strengthen. If it finds confusion, it will overwhelm. And if it finds readiness, it will open doors that were closed before. That is why our choice matters. It will shape not only how we weather the storm, but what we gain from it. I believe the storm of August 15 will not be entirely visible. Yes, there may be events, moments, conversations that mark it. But the real force will be beneath the surface, a shift in direction, a rearranging of the unseen currents that move our lives. That kind of storm is more dangerous because it does not announce itself with noise. It moves silently, and by the time you realize it has arrived, you are already in it. That is why the choice must be made in advance. The choice is simple in its essence. Will you act or will you react? Acting means you have already decided what matters to you, already chosen your principles, already planted your feet where you intend to stand. Reacting means you are pushed into decisions by the force of events, scrambling to find your footing in the chaos. The first brings stability, the second brings confusion. I think of sailors preparing for a storm at sea. They do not wait for the waves to rise before securing the sails. They check their ropes, they tighten their knots, they adjust their course long before the first dark cloud appears. They understand something vital. The storm will take what is loose. And so it is with us. The storm will find what is unsettled in us and test it. It will shake the foundations of our beliefs, our relationships, our priorities. If they are secure, they will hold. If they are weak, they will fall. This is why I say the choice before the storm is not about the storm itself. It is about you. Who will you be when the first drop falls? Who will you be when the air shifts? Because that version of you will decide the outcome far more than the storm's strength ever will. I have faced storms before, and I have learned this. You cannot control their arrival, but you can control your readiness. And readiness is not born in panic. It is born in quiet determination. It is built in the habits you form today, the clarity you seek now, the decisions you make before you are forced to make them. And yet, here is the paradox. The choice before the storm is not about knowing exactly what will happen. It is about trusting that, whatever happens, you will stand in it with purpose. That is what August 15 demands, not fear, not speculation, but a steady resolve to meet it fully awake. In the days ahead, the temptation will be to look for signs, to try and predict every detail. But storms are rarely what we imagine. They come with surprises, both harsh and beautiful. The more you cling to your expectations, the harder it will be to see the opportunities they carry. So your choice must include this, a willingness to adapt without losing your ground. When I picture the day arriving, I see two kinds of people. Some will be caught off guard, wondering how it came so quickly, why they did not prepare. Others will meet it with calm, not because they knew exactly what would happen, but because they had already chosen who they would be when it did. The difference between them will not be luck. It will be the choice they made before the storm. So here we are, standing in the stillness before it begins. The air is shifting, the horizon is changing, and the unseen hand is already moving. The storm will come whether we are ready or not. But readiness is still ours to choose, and in that choice lies everything, our strength, our clarity, our future. When the winds rise, when the day turns, when the moment arrives, you will not have time to wonder who you are. You will be who you have prepared to be, and that is why the choice must be made now, because once the storm begins, there will be no more time for deciding. There will only be time for standing.